Hey everyone, welcome to my channel and to a very special video. Happy New Year, happy 2021. I'm doing my first ever monthly recap, and because this is the last month in 2020, I'll also be introducing our financial goals for the upcoming year. If you're new here, this is the Penny Drops. My name is Emily, and this is going to be quite a long video, so take a minute, grab yourself a beverage, settle in, hope you like rambling, and let's get started. First off, if this is your first video, I am a 28-year-old. I'm married to my husband Trent, and we are parents to a 2-year-old, a 1-year-old, and soon to be a newborn. We live in a rural part of Alaska. We're from Idaho, but we have lived in Washington the past several years before moving to Alaska in early 2020, and we plan on settling down in Washington in the somewhat near future. I work in healthcare. I'm in the finance/compliance sector, and Trent is a tradesman, but soon to be stay-at-home dad. I started my YouTube channel because I love watching other people budget with YNAB, how they reason through things, what their expenses are like, and I learn a lot from watching other people use YNAB. My budgeting style has changed a lot over the last 5 or 6 months because of YouTube, and it's all been really positive changes. So if you're interested in giving YNAB a try, there's a link in my description below that will give us both a bonus month for free once you sign up. Right off the top, I'll talk through our 2021 goals, and I have to tell you, this is a very different video today than what I had planned the last several weeks. I've made some tough decisions and changed the big goal for the year at the last minute, so I'll explain all of that in just a moment. But first, the first goal for 2021, I've kind of beat to death on my channel, but we want to cash flow the medical and travel related costs for the birth of our newborn. Our out-of-pocket max for health insurance is $5,500 for combined myself plus baby, or $2,750 per person. So I'm estimating the total medical cost to be at $5,500 or hopefully lower. And then on top of that, I'm saving for all of these things I could think of for our trip down to Spokane for my labor and delivery. There's definitely some extras in here. We're kind of taking a relaxed vacation-y approach when we leave, and I feel that I've overfunded some of these things. So my plan is to take whatever surplus remains, if any, after the trip and sweep it onto the medical savings to pay for these medical bills, on top of also saving specifically for medical bills. The next goal will kind of work in parallel with the first. The next goal is to pay off all remaining medical debts. We owe about $6,600 for the labor and delivery of our first baby, Remy, but those are sitting in collection, and the collector has offered us a 50% settlement, which brings the payment amount down to $3,283. I'm a firm believer that it doesn't hurt to ask, so I will definitely be asking for an even more reduced settlement and see if they'll do anything further with that bill. And I'm not ashamed of asking to negotiate that whatsoever. So if you feel some kind of way about paying a debt in full, I don't agree with you. If they're willing to work with me, I'm willing to take the help. So you're entitled to that opinion, but we are just not going to agree. We also owe about $5,500 for Wesley's labor and delivery, and that is still owed to the hospital. So when we moved to Alaska in March, I called them and asked if we could skip our April payment because we were looking for jobs up here and we weren't sure how soon we would have an income again. And the billing lady offered to postpone payments for 6 months due to COVID. This was right at the start of the shutdowns. And I was like, heck yeah, that helps a lot, takes some of the stress off. So in October, I realized, actually after our usual payment date showed up as a reminder in my calendar, that our payment never got reinstated. I had completely forgotten about it. I had done a fresh start in April, so it wasn't in my budget, it wasn't on my radar. So I figured I had to call to reinstate. It was the end of October, and I didn't want these to go to collection and hit my credit. So I called, I think, 3 times over a 2-week period, the end of October. I sat on hold for, the longest one was like 90 minutes before I just left a voicemail. No one ever called me back. I tried to log into the online portal to see if I could set up payments online, and it says it can't find my account when I go to log in. So I'm thinking, what is going on? I emailed them and just said, hey, no one is calling me back. Can you please have someone get in touch with me? Nothing. So I gave it a couple of weeks, emailed them again in December, and just said, hey, following up, I still haven't heard back from anyone. And finally, I got an email I was CC'd on a response from one person asking another person to contact me. And then I got another email responding to that guy saying they would reach out to me, and then nothing. I have not heard back from anyone. So, anyway, this is one of those debts that I'm going to be relieved to just get out from under. I feel like I'm just being jerked around at this point, and I'm literally trying to give my money to these people. I'm really hoping I can have both of these completed by early spring because my next goal is to begin 5% contributions to my 401k, which my employer will match. My employer does a full match on my contributions up to the first 3% and then matches 50% of my contribution for the fourth and fifth percent. So essentially, if I contribute 5% of my salary, they will put in 4%. Now, I looked into this a little further because Trent and I are on like a 2.5 year plan up here. We're thinking we'll move back to Spokane area in the summer of 2023 because Remy will be starting kindergarten that fall, and we kind of want to get settled so she can start school and stay with the same class. The problem is our retirement option here is on a vesting schedule, and in April 2023, I'll only be 50% vested. So I won't actually get to take the full match. It will only be half of what my employer contributed and the interest earned from that. But even getting half the match for that period of time is worth it for me to contribute to the 401k. So again, there are more updates to come with this goal, but regardless, once we get the medical stuff cleaned up, we're going to begin retirement saving because we've put it off for way too long now. I'm starting to get nervous about it, and we're going to have some catching up to do. Now, this is where things got hairy for me. When I sat down to plan this video, I was trying to explain the logic behind this decision, and in doing that, I convinced myself that this was not the best decision for us and that I needed to reevaluate the next move. Saving up for a house is what my heart wants. I wanted to buy a house for 6 years. It's always been part of my plan to own real estate as part of our wealth portfolio, which is a long way off. But because I was attempting to do the Dave Ramsey plan, I knew that I should be out of debt before we made that move. I don't necessarily hold that kind of overarching belief anymore, but let me explain why we're not going to be doing that goal, and instead we're going to begin paying off our student loans as quickly as possible. When I sat down on Tuesday and pulled up the interest rates for our student loans, I realized that over half of them had rates between 4 and 7%. I had always kind of assumed that we had low rates, like closer to 3%. So this was actually a surprise to me. If you guys don't know, I had done a really good job of keeping my head in the sand about these loans because they really stressed me out. And it was only since I think August that I added our debts into YNAB and took a good hard look at the actual numbers. So I did the calculation, and we're going to be paying about $320 a month in interest once we go off the federal deferment. That means we would have to pay $320 a month while we're trying to do this goal just to stay stagnant and not see our loans going up. Now, the reason I want to save up for a down payment is I want to be able to put 20% down when we buy in an effort to avoid PMI and to say that we put 20% down. Like, that's it. I've had this block in my mind that we can't buy a house until we have 20% to put down. And that'd be great, but not if we're paying $320 a month in student loan interest for the next 4 years to avoid $150 a month in PMI once we buy a house. Like, do you guys see what I'm saying? So I'm going to take you guys with me. I'm going to go delete this down payment fund that I put in last week and this car savings fund, and we're going to stay focused on our debt payoff. And as emotionally attached as I am to the idea of buying a home, this feels right. I feel much better about this decision. The other way wasn't sitting right with me. So this is a good choice for us. And in about 3 or 4 years, when we're getting ready to buy, it's going to be okay if we don't have 20% to put down. Now, I mentioned we're planning on moving to Spokane summer 2023, but we probably won't buy a home until 2024. We'll just rent the first year when we first arrive in Spokane. That will give us the opportunity to kind of scope out the area and figure out what neighborhoods we want to look in. It'll give us a chance to keep saving. I'm anticipating we'll be in that place by that point to start saving, no debt, and it will allow us to be present when we initiate the process and go to viewings and not have to worry about trying to fly down from Alaska and buy a home when we're getting ready to make the initial move. This is all also total speculation. Plans could change very quickly, but this is kind of how we're thinking at this point. That last year between 2023 and 2024, Remy will be in kindergarten, so Trent could go back to work. Daycare would be cheaper with only 2 kids. And also, my mom will live close by and would probably love to help us out with childcare and will be in a much lower cost of living situation. So, there's a good chance that last year alone will be a catalyst to get a good down payment saved. So for 2021, I'm hoping to pay off a minimum of $15,000 on the student loans, but I added a stretch goal of $30,000 to try and hit, and we'll just see what we can do. My last 2 goals are kind of ongoing goals throughout the year. I want to read The Simple Path to Wealth, I Will Teach You to Be Rich, and Quit Like a Millionaire. I actually won a giveaway a few days ago from Debt Free D. Thank you, D. And The Simple Path to Wealth was one of the prize options, so I think that one is on the way to me, and I will try to get my hands on the next 2 once I've read the first. I've heard so much good stuff about The Simple Path to Wealth. It's actually one of the reasons I switched to the student loan payoff plan instead of the down payment savings. I knew the author recommended paying off debts if the interest rate is higher than I think 4 or maybe 5%. But I'm really excited to read it and get the full picture of another person's perspective. And last, I want to age our money. I mentioned this recently, I've talked about it in past videos, but I tend to wipe out savings when I get really close to a payoff goal. I actually almost did this yesterday because I realized how close we were to hitting the 40,000 paid down in 2020 mark, and I wanted that nice round number. And I can see myself getting really fired up about getting these medical debts and student loans paid off. But I want to make sure that we aren't putting ourselves in a cash poor situation and that I'm leaving some buffer between us and life during this whole process. So I plan to achieve this goal by continuing to save in our sinking funds, build our emergency fund consistently. I currently put $100 a month into that savings category, and by staying a month ahead in 2021. Next, I want to touch on our 2020 in review. We started out this year with approximately $132,000 in debt. That was a combination of credit cards, car loan, medical debt, an RV loan, and our student loans. Currently, we have $93,776 left to go. We've eliminated all types of debt except medical and student, and we reduced our debt by $38,367 since January of 2020, which is when we started this debt payoff journey. And the very last thing I want to touch on is our credit scores. Trent is currently at 731 and I am at a 677. The reason mine is so low is that medical debt I have in collection. I'm hoping once that balance is paid, it will bump up a fair amount. I used the Chase Credit Tracker for these numbers, which is the Vantage Score 3.0 formula. I'm not too worried about knowing the exact scores. I'm more interested in tracking the trend over the next year, which the Vantage or FICO, both of those should reflect similarly. So once I have a couple of data points to add over the next few months, I'll put a nice little chart in here to show what our credit score does as we continue paying off more debt each month. All right, you guys, if you made it this far, thank you so much for sticking with me. You've reached the bonus level of my video because I actually received our stimulus check about 3 hours after I posted our December bonus paycheck video last night. It has officially cleared my account and I'm now going to budget it with you. I'm going to jump into December and pull this Transfer Tuesday money out so that it's showing as January money. We'll do 254.09 and then 0 this one, and then back into January. I'll do plus 2400 times 0.05 and a little detour. I'm actually going to do that with our unexpected expenses category really quick as well. Okay, now the only thing I want to do with the rest of this money is fund some baby plans. So I'm going to take all of these categories, reset the budgeted amount, jump back into January, and refund the checked items. And then fill down as far as I can go. I'll check off those completed lines and then rearrange. We are so close to being done, you guys. The very last thing I want to look at is my beloved net worth chart. This is my favorite part of ending a month. This is why I will never do a fresh start again unless YNAB makes me. I love getting to look at this awesome chart. Now, obviously, we have a lot of money going into the baby plans that is going to be spent in future months, so our net worth might not see as much progress in coming months, but especially considering we paid for the Airbnb and the car seats out of December's budget, which are two of the more expensive things that we need to take care of for our trip, I'm ecstatic to see this net worth. Looking at income versus expense, I wanted to throw it out there that in 2015, which was the first year Trent and I were married, our annual income was $31,000. In December 2020, in 1 month, we made half our annual income from our first year of marriage. This is not a normal month. We're not going to see that number again regularly, but this is mind-blowing that we're working and pushing to increase our financial health, and we're seeing some amazing payoff as a result. Looking through our expenses, we did pretty good compared to other months, and we ended the month with a net income of over $5,000. So that's it for 2020. That's all I have for you. Thank you so much for watching. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoy this content. Don't forget to subscribe for more updates, and Happy New Year. Bye.